for joining us this evening. My name is Dawn Hopke, and I am the Associate Director of Admission here at Flint Hill School. We are joined tonight by both current and prospective families who are here to hear a lot more about taking meaningful risks and what that means at Flint Hill School. I hope that, can I get a thumbs up from one of my teammates just to make sure that we are A-okay and you can hear me okay? Perfect, thank you. We've got a great panel and presentation tonight. We've got lower, middle, and upper school faculty members here, members of the admission team, all here to talk more with you tonight. Just a few logistical pieces about a Google Meet. We have all been on many of these at this point in time, but we do ask that you stay muted so that we can hear our presenters and the sound quality is great. There is a chat feature here in Google Meet, so you are welcome to chat at any time. I did a little quick chat in there. You might be able to see it. That says post your questions and comments at any time, and we'll try to kind of keep a running dialogue going during the event. And I am going to turn this event over to Mia Burton, who is going to give you a little bit of overview about what it means to take meaningful risk here at Flint Hill. She is our Director of Institutional Equity and Inclusion, and she is also our Interim Director of Counseling. So Mia, may I turn it over to you?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. As Dawn was planning this event, she gave me the framework and she gave me some specific questions to answer in my introduction to this topic and to our panel. So forgive me if I look down because I want to make sure that I'm following Dawn's good instructions for the evening. First, I know that when we hear meaningful risk, I think that people all of a sudden go to risky behavior. And what we're talking about is something different. Risk taking, we know, is a part of just our natural human development. You know, as we move from childhood to adolescence, the risk taking behavior increases. And as we move from adolescent into later adulthood, our risk taking decreases. And the reason behind that is brain science. You know, if we look at how our brains are wired, and knowing that our brains are moving from more emotional only capabilities to more cognitive as we get older, that is why we see those risk-taking behaviors that increase in certain times in human development. But what we're talking about are the healthy types of risk-taking. Those are the types of risk-taking that allow our students to stretch their capacities, to really use their minds to start gaining an image of who they are as a person and what they see for their future. It also really enriches our educational experience and allows our students to learn to be a part of our learning and to be active and to see the things that aren't there and aren't really around them, and to understand what it means to wonder and investigate things more deeply. So when we talk about those types of meaningful risks, we're looking at those chances and those opportunities that will enrich us. It's not about whether our risk was successful or unsuccessful, but about what we can learn along the way. Why is Flint Hill a place that can kind of harness that type of energy? And I think because a lot of times, because the people who work here tend to be examples of taking meaningful risks, whether they are on the cutting edge and innovative types of delivering curriculum, whether they are introducing new topics to students. But we have at Flint Hill built a learning community that values that. It's not just about a grade. It's not just about completion of work or who's the best and the fastest, but it's about each student on a journey to meet their personal best, regardless of where they are. And part of that journey involves stepping into an uncomfortable space, a new space, or digging deeper wherever you are. With our faculty and staff, our belief in relationships, we also form that kind of safe place to land when the meaningful risk might turn out different than anticipated. We are also kind of the trampoline to help you bounce up and launch if you do hit that point, and to help your student grow in new and different ways. And finally, what is it that we are cultivating in our students from being an environment that allows this opportunity? You know, we're building confidence. We're helping, especially our older students, do a bit of their own identity development journey by trying new things. We are also sparking creativity. We're sparking wonder. And again, allowing our students to engage in the learning process in many different ways, while knowing that they have a supportive community of adults that's always there to guide them, to support them, and to also lead them at times. So when we say meaningful risks, they can be anything from I am going to eat with a different person at lunch today, to I am going to run for SCA president, or you know what? I don't know if I can take, AP French, but I want to stretch myself. And so all of those things are things that we are fully invested in as a community. And I'll give you just an example for myself of taking a meaningful risk and role modeling that for our student population. I performed at one of our open mic events in our upper school. So, me and a colleague were asked by a few of our students if we would be part of a dance routine and talk about meaningful risk. I'm not a dancer, not professionally trained by any means, but for them to see us taking that risk, it really galvanized them, and it allowed them to see, you can step out there, you can do these things. And while yes, I probably role modeled the fear, the anxiety, the and all that comes with making a meaningful risk, it also showed an example that yeah, you can do it. And when you do take those risks, you're doing it more for yourself than you are for what the impact will be on others. So tonight we have a wonderful panel that will share their experiences at Flint Hill. We have a range of different people that you'll hear from tonight. And first, we'll have Nikki Rigores-Gilfus, followed by Rico Reed, Joan Cade, and Jody Patrick. And will each of you just say who you are and your role, and then you can share your experience.
Sure, I'll start first. Nikki Rigores-Gilfus. I'm one of the lower school teachers. I teach first grade. And I think taking meaningful risks is so large in the lower school because pretty much every day is a meaningful risk. When the students step out of the car in the morning and they're greeted by faculty that they may not know, and then they start their journey into the building. It also then continues as they get into the classroom, establishing friendship or asking friends to play. I mean, that's a meaningful risk for lower school, JK all the way through, not knowing the outcome. And another great meaningful risk is when students participate in conversations in lessons and they're not quite sure. They kind of raise their hand, then they pull their hand back down again. But I think we create the space, kind of how Mia had said, and it's intentional with the first 6 weeks of school in the lower school, especially, of building the classroom community where students feel comfortable taking meaningful risk. We spend a lot of time through morning meeting, getting to know each other. I could tell you some of my students' favorite restaurants and their favorite colors and what they like and what they don't like, what puts a smile on their face. And I think by establishing that sort of classroom community, they feel comfortable with each other and with us to take those risks, to say, I'm gonna try to do this. It may not be my best. And they'll say, I'm gonna just try. And I'm like, that's perfect. And we model making mistakes also so that they see that you learn from your mistakes and it's a process. It's not always just about the product, sort of how Mia had said, and just leading by example. And every day we talk about, ways of improving and their growth and setting goals. And that kind of scaffolds all the way out through from JK all the way up through 6th grade. And again, I'd probably say through the high school as well. So those are some meaningful risks that we take in the lower school. There's a ton more, but we have a few other presenters to share. So thank you.
Good evening. I'm Rico Reed. This is my 18th year at Flint Hill. Like many of my colleagues, I've willingly worn multiple hats and served in many capacities. I'm currently supporting the alumni office and the admission office. I personally believe that this is one of my favorite aspects of the Flint Hill experience. I think that it is a differentiator for us as a community. I think it distinguishes us from many other communities. And what I mean by that is, it's a direct result of the confidence that's being instilled in the children that we have a chance to engage with on a daily basis. And that confidence is a byproduct of the relationships. Relationships are the foundation of who we are and what we do in our community. And the mere fact that we take the time to get to know the students that we serve, to create a safe environment, an environment where they can truly be themselves, where they can fail, where they can swing and miss. And they understand that ultimately, and I think the term was used earlier, they're stretching. They're creating a level of resiliency, but they also create a level of comfort within the community. And they're amongst peers and they're amongst teachers and other faculty members who truly love them. But at the same time, it's a direct result of who we are. I would say it's our culture. I would say that, our kids, it's a culture that's cultivated. I have a prime example. Today, we had our all-school gathering where we were in our upper school gym. We had over 1,000 people there. And we had a sixth grader who was visibly nervous, who stepped to the podium and clearly articulated his hopes and dreams for the 22-23 school year. And not only will he never forget that, but his classmates will never forget that moment where he stood before, like I said, over 1,000 students and teachers and belted out just a clear articulation of what his expectations and hopes and dreams are for the school year. But it doesn't have to be as grandiose as that. It could be, as Nikki mentioned, making friends, being the first to acknowledge, a classmate. Quite often we have families that visit and students come for shadow visits, or we have weekend activities. And in those instances, it's really our current students who are the ambassadors for us, who really, extend a hand and welcome others. And that's a risk within itself. But I also think just the ability to share what you're interested in. We have a lot of opportunities for students in our community to share perspectives and have open dialogue with others. And it's quite possible, especially for our younger students, but even with our teens, to opt out of participating, to sit and just observe what others are doing and watch, and even maybe a head nod or something like that. Our Flint Hill kids are ready to contribute. They're ready to offer their opinion, even if it's different from what has been said by many others in that space. And again, for me, that gets back to confidence, the confidence that is instilled in our kids, and also the foundation of the relationships, where kids know it's a safe space. I know that if I'm wrong with my attempt with this math answer, I'm going to be explained the why. And I have an understanding where it's ultimately just building resilience, and it puts them in a position to run for office in middle school or run for office in the upper school. It also puts them in a position to maybe, try out for a team, try out for a cross country or something like that, where they never really envisioned themselves being an active participant. But what they don't realize is that they're ultimately an agent for others. They participate and create a level of comfort for others as well. And the thing about it, with regards to our vision, kids understand that that's who they are. So it doesn't matter if you've been at Flint Hill for a month or 5 years. As I mentioned earlier, I think it's a part of the culture and it becomes contagious. And I think it's something that not only makes us proud, but will make you as parents proud as well.
Great. I'll step in from here. My name is Joan Cotta. I have been teaching for 21 years, but it's my 6th year at Flint Hill. I teach 7th and 8th grade English in our middle school. And when Dawn approached me, I spent a little time thinking about what I wanted to share. And I think the thing that I feel is important for you to hear is that, you know, we all know what it's like to raise kids in this area. It's really intense. It's there's not a lot of room, it feels like, for failure. And so I've seen over the years that kids are more reluctant to take risks. And one of the things that I see at Flint Hill that's really made it a special work environment for me is that we really believe as teachers that when you ask, as in any profession, when you are doing the work yourself that you're asking kids to do, you're a better role model. And so for me, in my classroom, that looks like I'm always bringing in the books that I'm reading or telling kids about new books that that I've come across and that I want to share with them. A few years ago, I decided to take a painting class, and I was painting, and I could appreciate in this class of really not knowing what I was doing. I had a sense of what that feels like and what that felt like as a kid to be asked to do something, and how we sometimes as adults take for granted that, oh, come on, just put it out there. Like, you got it, you can do this. And it's hard. It's hard to put yourself out there. So I think my big message is that we at Flint Hill do a great job of stepping into what we ask kids to do. We take the risks, we walk next to them, we see what that's like, and we share with them what that feels like. And so it's not us talking down to them, it's us guiding them and saying, hey, I'm in this too. Like, I'm also a lifelong learner, I'm also a lifelong reader. And I think that is truly unique to Flint Hill and unique to schools in this area where kids feel a lot of pressure. And I think we need to encourage kids that failure is a part of learning. It's okay. And in fact, we do it. We all do it. And don't be scared of that. And I think if you continually give that message and you teach kids that failure is really necessary for growth, they are willing to take the risks and they see you taking risks. So I guess that's just what I wanted to share. But yeah, I'll pass it off to my colleague and friend, Jody.
Thanks, Joan. And boy, some great messages. Jody Patrick, I'm in my 22nd year here at Flint Hill and have worn many hats. You know, Rico had referred to that, you know, that many of us wear different hats and, you know, really loving that opportunity to be able to lead the students in different ways. And I'm in my 12th year as a PE teacher, but I also was in the athletic department, but I'm coaching also. I'm coaching all seasons. Right now I'm coaching field hockey, varsity and JV. I coach middle school basketball in the winter. I was the varsity girls basketball coach for 21 years and I handed that off, passed it forward to someone. And now in the spring, I do lacrosse. So in that way, you know, that hard to, you know, what Joan was just saying, I just jotted down, hard to put yourself out there. You know, we have, all of us who've talked tonight, we've all put ourselves out there. And I've coached a lot, but, you know, one story I just want to give you of being able to, as Mia said, you know, the wonder and investigate. During the summers, we have a summer program that's been going on since I started at Flint Hill in 2001. And we had a little bit of break during COVID, as everyone, a lot of schools, everything, you know, sort of slowed down. Right before that break, we had 5 to 6 every year, 5 or 6 students who would come to me, and I was part of the summer programs, who were wanting to be part of. We took a trip to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We partnered with the Habitat for Humanity in Harrisburg. And this was a meaningful risk for my husband and I, who, you know, he joined in, he wanted to help with this. And, you know, we were, not to get political, but we were big Jimmy Carter fans. And Jimmy Carter was part of the beginning, you know, not the beginning, but he really helped get the Habitat for Humanity on the map, really. And so I was turned to by the summer programs and said, you know, saying, hey, we have some students who might be interested in this. You know, it's out there. Could you help lead it? And we thought, my husband and I said, hey, this is great. Let's do this. This is really within our wheelhouse, but we were taking meaningful risks. So we met with these students and the families, and it turned into, you know, 6 and really 7 years, I think, in a row we did it. And we would go to the Habitat for Humanity in Harrisburg. We'd stay all week. We would work 4 days. And we would work in the morning and then into the early afternoon. And we didn't know every day when we went to the Habitat Restore, if any of you do Habitat work, we didn't know what we were going to do that day. And it was the morning, it was whatever they needed, and we were all ready to do it. And boy, I'll tell you, the kids just absolutely blossomed during that time. And one even took a video. He was applying to NYU Film School, and he took a video during the week and shared it with us. And by the end of that week, just that feeling of being able to accomplish something, one that helps people. You know, we really care about service, and we have service requirements at the school. And it was just such a great experience for all of us to sort of step out and take that meaningful risk of getting out into the community and doing something different. So I wanted to add that, you know, as I said, I've been at the school a long time and enjoying my physical education teaching, enjoying my coaching, but boy, did we coach up those kids. And they sort of coached my husband and I up too, and helped us through, you know, some really tough experiences and jobs that we had to do, you know, some things we had never done. So I just wanted to add that as a meaningful risk and sort of what we do at the school. It's not just, you know, the September through May. There's work in the summer, there's experiences in the summer that you'll have a chance to be part of as well. So, you know, that's my piece. And, you know, I'll throw it back to Mia. Thank you.
Thank you all so very much for all of your sharing. From our participants here tonight, our audience, if you have any questions at all for our group of educators here, please feel free to post those in the chat. You know, I think that I'm smiling to myself because, you know, one of the reasons I connected so well with Jody is I remember one of our first conversations was literally about that Habitat project, because I grew up in the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania area and knew exactly where they had been working, and down to, you know, my aunt's brother-in-law owns the restaurant that they had, you know, had found, and all of these wonderful connections that we make. And I think that, you know, while certainly taking meaningful risk is a significant component of Flint Hill, you know, those relationships are key too. And I know that you all have heard lots and lots and lots about relationships here as well. I'm just going to open the floor. Any questions for our group before we log off for tonight? Any last thoughts from our panelist? Rico, I saw you've got your hand raised.
Sure. No, I wanted to reiterate what was mentioned earlier by Mia Burton, as she referenced, and Joan mentioned as well, that as a faculty, we have a chance to model for our kids. And as we talked about wearing multiple hats, it has resulted in a lot of us serving in different capacities, in capacities that we didn't initially consider finding ourselves in. But it also resulted in us being able to walk the walk. And then ultimately what I've seen is at every level, lower school, middle school, and upper school, many of the kids seek us out to talk about what they're considering, or to maybe let us know what's on their mind as far as what they aspire to do, what they hope to do during their time there at Flint Hill. And it provides us with an opportunity to maybe, you know, give them that nudge that they need, or remind them of who we are as a school, especially with regards to our vision. But it's not just limited to their Flint Hill experience. A lot of times kids are talking about the things that they're doing outside of school, whether that is scouts or service, or considering an athletic team outside of school, and where they might have had second thoughts at some point. That little nudge, that little exchange with us has ultimately resulted in many of our kids experiencing success outside of school as well. And we know that that can be a different dynamic. It's one thing to kind of stretch yourself and to take risks within the comfy confines of Flint Hill School. But to be able to extend that to beyond the walls of Flint Hill School and still accomplish things is something that I think we should acknowledge as well. And they fail out there also. But the resilience that's developed and built during their time here at Flint Hill, I believe, contributes to them putting themselves in a position to state to us, and I have a chance to deal with alums, And they always say, I felt more prepared than my roommate, more prepared than my classmate, more prepared than my teammate as a result of their daily experiences at Flint Hill. And taking risks is a part of the daily experience.
Thank you, Rico. I think that those tremendous words. Nikki, I think you had something you wanted to share.
Just a quick question. I know Rico mentioned earlier we had the all school gathering today, and it was the first time that the lower school students met with their senior buddies. And you know, it was just great to see the seniors like bending down low, talking to their buddies, asking them about school, about their interests, what they like, and just kind of, we haven't done it in a while because of COVID, but it's just one of those moments that sort of just bridges the connection. I mean, your kindergartners and JKers have never seen these senior buddies. I've taught some of these students, you know, I've been at Flint Hill 16 years and I have to look up to most of them. And it was just great to just see these kids with their confidence and have the upperclassmen just being like role models as they're sitting in, like Rico said, over 1,000 students sitting on the floor in the gym and just making sure that their buddies are next to them and they're paying attention, they're listening to the speakers and to the other students presenting. It just kind of creates just a great sort of community in a sense for like, it is modeled throughout the whole school. And even in the lower school, we talk even starting in kindergarten, like you're modeling for JK, fourth grade, you're modeling for all the students and it works their way down, just like in the high school, and it works their way down. And one of my students at the end started crying and he said, I'm going to miss my senior buddy. When am I going to see him again? And it wasn't a kid that I think would usually shed a tear, but it was one of those moments where I was like, we got to, you know, get back together again. And just sort of talking about that connection and those relationships are super important for meaningful risks and just being a part of our community.
Jody, I saw that you had something to add.
Right. I think I saw a question in the chat room about examples of the students with meaningful risks within the school. And I think one of my office, I have two different offices, one at the lower school and then one at the upper school. And with my PE teaching, I'm down in the lower school a lot. But when the students are, they have a chance to create clubs. And that's a real risk taking sometimes for the kids. You know, what if they put themselves out there and no one wants to join the club? And one student asked me to help a few years ago with the Food for Others club and helping collect food. And I knew that that was going to take off. I mean, that's one. Food for Others is in Merrifield, if you're familiar with the area, and they just do a great job. And it's something that we did with basketball. We connected it with we ran a clinic and we had that group come and, you know, put flyers out there and, you know, have students who came to the clinic. That's what they had to pay, you know, for the clinic, was just bringing some food and some canned foods and box foods. So that was started by a student who wanted to start a club. So for those of you who are interested in, you know, you have a thought right now that you want to do some type of service, or you're really interested in something and that club does not exist, or it exists at Flint Hill and you want to join it. There are so many different clubs, and I'm just mentioning that one. And it's just the service type clubs, you know, that is heart of Flint Hill as well. But there are a lot of different things that you can do in creating your own club. So I'd say that's from the chat room. I hope that helps answer it. But there's the opportunities to start clubs when you're at the school.
And I just wanted to add, oh, sorry. I just wanted to add, you know, another example of meaningful risks. And I think that each student has their own level of what is that meaningful risk. And I know that for some students, we talk about how relationships are really important at Flint Hill, that faculty, student, staff, student, coach, student, administrator, student relationship is so important. And one of the things that I see in our upper school is that each day has time earmarked for office hours where you can go and spend time with your teacher to ask questions if there's, you know, a question or concern, to even just to go deeper in the material, to make up things that you may have missed during class. But what I've noticed is that for those students who are transitioning to Flint Hill, who've never been in a space where teachers actually want to see you, come back again. because they want to help you, and I think for some students, that's a meaningful risk, to show up at someone's classroom as a designated time and to say, you really want to hear from me? And I think that's what another thing that's special about Flint Hill is like, yeah, that time is reserved because we want to build those types of relationships. So for some students, it is that meaningful risk of understanding how we value relationships at Flint Hill and how supportive the environment truly is. And I would say this is the same of any middle school teacher or teachers in the lower school as well, even though there isn't an office hour. But there is that genuine interest in getting to know the individual students, that for some students is a meaningful risk to take, to make those connections, to share those interests and those passions with a person who really wants to see you take those meaningful risks. I think, as Jody mentioned, we have our student clubs in the upper school. Each of those clubs are student initiated and student run. So in the over 60 plus clubs that might operate in a year, each of those comes from the idea, from the mind and an idea of a single student. And I was talking to a student today because our club fair in the upper school is next week, who was saying, like, I really want to start this club, but I'm worried that no one will sign up for it. And, we talked about, well, what would that mean? And what if there's someone who wants that club who doesn't even know or can't even imagine it? And so we talked about that. What is that meaningful risk and what does it mean? And really how to put yourself out there, because we want, one of the things that is one of our core values is that we want our students to blaze the trail. And you can't blaze the trail without taking a meaningful risk. And we want, our students to live lives beyond Flint Hill where they have endless possibilities. And in order to have that endless possibilities for life, you definitely have to embrace those meaningful risks and not limit those opportunities that might come your way.
Thank you, Mia. I know that Julie Lewis wanted to jump in with a meaningful risk.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Lewis, and I work with Dawn in the admission office. And I worked with a family whose daughter actually joined the school, and she's been there for only 2 weeks. And she came by my office to say hi and said, Mrs. Lewis, can I leave my guitar case, my books here? I'm actually participating in an open mic, which Mia referred to earlier today, where she took her meaningful risk by dancing in front of the entire upper school population. This young lady has only been at the school for 2 weeks. And she had her guitar and she said, Miss Lewis, I've been practicing all week. And she played a little bit and practiced a little bit. And then to prepare for her performance. And then I took her hands and I said, just, look out in the audience. Don't look at anyone. Be you and play your heart out. And so she went on stage after a couple of performances and she played a Taylor Swift song. And at first, it was kind of lukewarm. And then all of a sudden, the students started clapping and then singing along with her. And I saw her get up, very scared. And then all of a sudden, she just played like she was Taylor Swift. I mean, she was so confident and so happy. And when she got up the stage, you could see her kind of bouncing around, just, so exuberant. And, it made her day. And for a student who's brand new to the high school, 2 weeks in, gets on stage and plays a guitar playing Taylor Swift, and the entire school is clapping and singing along. If that's not a meaningful risk, I don't know what that would be, because I don't think I would have done that, when I was 14, 15, starting high school. So know that that's all those meaningful risks are taken in safe spaces where our students are supporting the students who get up on that stage, clapping, and knowing that that person is really up there giving it their all, and knowing, and then have, not sure what's going to happen, but at the end, she got all the support that she deserved, and everyone enjoyed it, and it was awesome. So I just wanted to share that with parents who are worried about meaningful risks and how it occurs within our school, and how everyone is very supportive of each other.
Thanks, Julie. Any last thoughts or comments before we close out tonight? Well, this has been, I think we all took a little meaningful risk tonight in trying to come together and share some of our thoughts and ideas about what meaningful risk means and what that looks like at Flint Hill with you. Certainly, as members of our audience, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. We're happy to always be in touch and to continue the dialogue that we started tonight. Thank you again, and have a great evening.